Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. So here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, I have been reading through the stories of Ray Bradbury, a collection of 100 tales. We are up to story number 46 out of that collection. It is called The Small Assassin. It was originally written in 1946. So for the synopsis, Alice Leiber is laying in a hospital bed, and for the past months, she's had the overwhelming sensation that somebody is trying to kill her. When she wakes up in that hospital bed, she has delivered a child, a boy, by cesarian section. It was a particularly hard birth on her. Days later, her and her husband David take the baby home. The baby is still unnamed. And Alice has no love for the child. She has this strange sensation that continues that the baby is trying to kill her. She looks into its sort of blank eyes, its blank expression, its unformed mind, and just has the overwhelming sensation that something is not right. Today, I think we'd call it postpartum depression, perhaps. But a few weeks later, David goes on a week-long business trip out of town, but he gets called home because Alice is in the hospital. She's been stricken ill with pneumonia, and the doctor thinks it's just exhaustion. First of a difficult birth, and then being home alone and sort of caring for a baby that never stops crying, that sort of thing. But he doesn't think particularly much of it. He just thinks that Alice needs some rest. But frequently, David and Alice, as they go into the baby's room, they see the baby, who doesn't cry a lot, sort of red-faced and as if it's been crying all night and they haven't heard it, and they wonder about this. On one particular night when the baby has been crying, David goes downstairs to get some milk, but at the top of the stairs, he trips and falls on a toy, a doll that he had brought home from a trip. He falls to the bottom of the steps. He's hurt, but he's okay, and he wonders at how the toy got there. But not long after, one day, after a hard, long day at work, David comes home and he finds his wife, Alice, dead at the bottom of the steps. She is apparently fallen on the same doll, which again has found its way to the top step. The doctor comes over, and David, too, is now suspicious of the baby. He finally names it, perhaps jokingly, Lucifer. And the doctor doesn't find this to be all that funny. But this is the point when David lays out it's hard to tell how serious he was at this point, but he lays out this theory. He says that, we think so little of babies. We think that they're completely harmless for years and years, and that it takes them all this time to form and become full human. But what if one in every few million babies was born different, a little bit ahead of the curve, and that they're only pretending to be hopeless, and that perhaps babies are not completely helpless. Perhaps they can crawl and do things and think that we don't think about. And perhaps they resent being born. They resent being born into a cruel world where over time they become less and less important. They become less and less the focus of a parent's attention. Perhaps that in this time of their apparent helplessness, they use it as an excuse to murder their parents because they resent having been torn from the tranquility and the perfection of a womb in a time when they are the center of the mother's complete and utter attention. The doctor thinks he's going nuts. He thinks you're just overstressed. David, you're grieving for your wife, and I'm going to sedate you so you can sleep, and I'll be back in the morning, and I think you'll feel a lot better by then. So the doctor comes back the next morning, and he finds the house clouded with gas. The gas is leaking. The natural gas is leaking into the house. It's full of fumes, and he finds David dead in his bed. And he believes that David could not possibly have committed suicide because he was so heavily sedated and he hasn't moved, so someone else did this. That is when he gets from the corner of his eye just the slightest glint of something small and pale crawling away, the baby. And now the doctor believes it. So the doctor reaches into his bag. He pulls out something shiny like babies often like. It's a scalpel, and he goes baby hunting. So, wow. This is probably the darkest Ray Bradbury short story that I've ever read, and I've read 150 of them at this point. Bradbury has this thing that he does that he likes to do, and he does it very often in these stories. And he likes to take conventions, cliches, expressions, things like that, and turn them on his head. And he turns several different ones on his head in this tale. The first one is when a baby is late to be delivered, we often say that that baby doesn't want to be born. And that was certainly the case with little baby Lucifer here, who, you know, he was named Lucifer, and that's very fitting because for most of his story, which was a very tense story, very suspense-filled, I was thinking, like, is this a Rosemary's Baby situation? Is this the devil's spawn? Is David not really the father? Did he give the baby over to the devil in return for his successful business ventures? And this was written in 1947, I think, 46. So this is before Rosemary's Baby, the movie, but I don't know, is that based on a story or something like that, a novel? But it very much has that sort of feeling like Bradbury was intentionally playing off of that type of idea. There's also the saying that there's also these situations of postpartum depression where we think that that's all that is now, and she'll get over it. This is just dealing with postpartum depression for a while, but she'll be fine. But in this case, the mother's odd thoughts are real. She has every reason to be fearful of this child. So I love that. I love the idea that it's not just a psychological condition, it's an actual legitimate fear. So I think that was great. And then the main one is the one that David gets into late in the story, and when he's theorizing about what this thing is, what the situation is, and he says, basically, maybe the baby resents being born into a world that is this bad and full of evil and all these things, and he's basically getting revenge preemptively. And that's something people say a lot. We say, you know, why would you bring a baby into this world today the way it is? And I love how Bradbury takes that and turns it on its head, makes it real, makes it a case of the baby getting revenge on the parents for giving birth to it. And so, yeah, Bradbury does all of this and more in this story, The Small Assassin from 1946. So there you have it, guys. A great tale, one of the better ones that I've read recently from this collection. But if you're following along, we are going to be up to story number 47 of 100 next time, and that is called The Next in Line. And then a few stories later, we will be halfway through this project. So please come again, and until next time, keep it creepy.